Hello class. For today, we are going to still work on a period functions for periodic functions for the trigonometric graphing. In this particular case, you guys will not see b values separate from the phase shift and everything. So I need you to make sure that you understand that aspect of it for this particular week. So let me give you a couple of examples, and I'll give you two examples for today, and then that's going to be it. And then you'll be working on two questions for homework to do. I modified one of the questions that we had before into looking something like this. So when you guys see a question like this one, you guys must understand that whatever that you see is not whatever you see is not the phase shift all the time. Well, that's because the regular trigonometric function graph, the equation format, they always follow b times x minus or plus and minus theta, okay? Which we say that this is our phase shift. Now notice in these particular equations that we have the parentheses apart from this letter b. So b has to be separate and it has to be out from the parentheses in order for it to be classified as a phase shift. Then that is the phase shift right here. So for questions like this, and if you're trying to rush the questions and let's say you try to do this really quickly, and then you just say, oh, I see whatever this is, and that's pi, then that's absolutely incorrect, okay? What we need to do here is to understand that, okay, I need to make sure I transform this into this format. So I need to factor out the b value. Okay, that is the main idea here. So how do I do that? It's going to be sine of 3. So we all know the frequency is 3, amplitude is 1, vertical shift is 5. We all know all this stuff. But for number 3 and 4, when you're trying to figure out this new period in each increment, you need to factor out the 3 and then put a parentheses after that, and you need to determine what goes in there. Sometimes it's not as obvious and clear, but here, if you're factoring out the 3, that means that you have to put x because the 3 is coming out from the x, but also 3 is coming out from here. Essentially, when you factor out the 3, it means that you need to take both of these components, 3x and plus pi, and then you have to divide it by 3. So if you do 3x divided by 3, it becomes an x, which becomes right here. If you take pi and divide it by 3, well, that becomes pi over 3, right? So that means that your phase shift would be pi over 3. That is what you're going to put right here. And then each increment will be pi over 12 because you just have to take that and divide by, oh, I'm sorry. The new period here would be that of 2 pi divided by 3, and then each increment will be 2 pi divided by 3 divided by 4, which makes it pi over 6. The phase shift is what we're talking about. It's pi over 3 to the left. Okay, it's not pi to the left, it's pi over 3 to the left. Okay, so let's say that I'm going to erase this and I'm trying to graph this just like before. And each increment I'm going to make it as pi over 6. So pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, which is my full period. Negative pi over 6, negative 2 pi over 6, negative 3 pi over 6, and negative 4 pi over 6. And because the vertical shift is 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to go up to 6 and I go up to 4. Let's establish the framework just like before. My midline will be at 5, and my midline will be at 4. So I have my framework ready. Then it's sine graph. So sine goes mid, max, and then back to mid. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at pi over 3 to the left, which is at negative 2 pi over 6. So I'm going to start in the middle. Okay, I'm going to start in the middle, and then I'm going to go above into the max. Mid, minimum, and then mid. So this wave right here will be one complete full wave, And that makes sense because from negative 2 pi over 6 to 2 pi over 6, you will get 2 pi over 3, or 4 pi over 6 in that matter. So phase shift is 3 pi over 3 units to the left. That's the main idea that I want you to get out from this, that it's not going to be always what you see. And then this, this is going to continue on, and then you're going to make a couple more points down this way and that way, and you'll get your graph. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at this one right here. Again, do not say, because I know that you guys can do all of these other components pretty well. This is not your phase shift. Okay, don't make that mistake. Pause the video and try this question on your own, and then let's check together, and then that'll be it for this video. Okay, amplitude is 2, frequency is 2. Each increment, well, that makes it this to be pi, and this would be pi over 4. The vertical shift is 3 down. The phase shift, if you factor out the 2, remember you have to divide this by 2. So it makes this to be minus pi over 8. Okay, so what that means is the phase shift is pi over 8 units to the right. I'm going to draw my grid. I'm going to be at 3 units down on pi over 8 to the right. And then I'm going to go up 2, down 2, establish my framework at -1, -3, then -5. And then here I'm going to make this to be pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, and then 4 pi over 4. Negative pi over 4, negative 2 pi over 4, negative 3 pi over 4, and negative 4 pi over 4. Remember, each increment is what I say here. Then pi over 8 is actually halfway between them, so it's a little tricky, and it's cosine negative, so I start from the minimum. Then here, right between pi over 4 and 2 pi over 4 is when I'll put the next point, next point, next point, and then next point. Here, I'll do the exact same thing, and then I'll get this really nice graph that starts at positive pi over 8, and it's at minimum because it's negative cosine. So that should be the wave. Hope this video helped, and please finish your assignment by 11:59 p.m. today. Thank you. Have a good day.